like cards. It's not what you dealt, but how you play it. To play each situation correctly. I remember they used to laugh at a brother.
When you have to lie about something that you said simply didn't happen, as if you saying that it didn't happen wasn't good enough, and you get caught in that lie with the receipts to prove that you lied, that usually means the situation that you're lying about is actually true, and it did happen. Like I said in part one, I did this research to separate facts from fiction, and to set the historical narrative and record straight for all the Tupac fans and the people who respected his artwork. This is not about whether Faith Evans had sex with Tupac Shakur. I already know the answer to that question, even if you may struggle with it. This is about exposing Faith Evans' feeble attempt to fabricate a salacious story about Tupac Shakur sexually harassing her, an attempt to generate publicity to sell her book, and deny the fact, after Tupac was deceased, that she did have sex with Tupac Shakur on October 19th, 1995. In her conversation with Drink Champs in regards to Tupac, Faith Evans, prior to coming to LA on October 1995, had just found out this information.
Not only on the personal side, I had found out about Big and Kim. Big was already dating Charlie Baltimore.
That's why in person that night, and even in this picture, one could assume or think or wouldn't be aware of her relationship status based on the message that she was sending by not having her wedding ring on that night at the Hollywood Athletic Club. She didn't come to stay. She came to play. How do I know? Because I was there that night, and I witnessed it with my own eyes. According to Faith Evans' memoir, if you were to believe that this paragraph in her memoir is true, then as sure as there is wetness in water, it did not take place after the Waiting to Exhale soundtrack release party on November 14th, 1995, as Faith Evans would like you to think. You're probably saying to yourself, how do you know that? Because I've already proved in part one, beyond a shadow of a doubt, and with the receipts of the October 19th, 1995 recorded interview with LA Times reporter Chuck Phillips interviewing Tupac at Can-Am Studios, that also captures Faith Evans and Tupac recording the song, You Wonder Why They Call You Bitch.
October the 19th, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Tupac Shakur, Can-Am Studios in Tarzana. His first interview.
Take it back.
I'm saying I went into the verse.
That's all right.
All right.
Remember, we can bring you in and out whenever we want.
Okay.
You want to save it? Yeah. You record?
This shit mad fast.
Hey, but you're doing it. You're doing it though, girl. Exactly. You are.
So if what Faith is saying in that paragraph actually took place, that would mean the conversation as to her guest appearance actually took place when Faith Evans went back to Tupac's hotel that night she first met him after the party at the Hollywood Athletic Club on October 18th, 1995. Let's be even more direct and clear. Faith Evans could have sued Tupac Shakur for defamation for Hit 'Em Up, which was released on June 4th, 1996. Faith Evans also could have sued Tupac for sexual harassment for what she alleged happened in his hotel room at the Peninsula while Tupac was living, if Hit 'Em Up wasn't true, or if what she said happened at his hotel was true. But if she didn't want her husband to know that she went to Tupac's hotel room and recorded the song with him, and never mind the fact that Drew Down and Big Sight could bear witness on Tupac's behalf, as they were also in the room, that would be reason enough for Faith Evans not to file a lawsuit. It was a no-win situation. You must remember, In that June 12, 1996 interview that took place 7 months after the so-called sexual harassment and non-payment of her so-called $25,000, which was 8 days after Hit 'Em Up was released on June 4th, 1996. In that particular interview, Faith Evans mentions nothing about sexual harassment, nothing about going back to Tupac's hotel room, nothing about recording a song with him, and nothing about Tupac owing her $25,000. But in fact, she said Tupac was really nice.
What's the situation with you and Big? What's the situation with you and Tupac, the LA situation? What's going on?
Oh, all right. You got to start at one point. Okay.
I'm going through all of it.
Okay. Situation with me and Tupac, there really never was a situation. I mean, we met. He was really nice.
This is after what Faith said happened in Tupac's hotel room. So basically, Faith failing to mention all the explicit hotel sexual harassment lies in the 1996 interview that she now conveniently alleged happened in her memoir in 2009, now that that check had been cut and Biggie and Tupac were no longer allowed to refute this new recollection of events. Remember, after that night at the Hollywood Athletic Club on October 18th, Faith said in her memoir, "A day or two later, I spoke to Big. I made sure to run it by him. I met Pac out here, I told him. He wants to do a song with me." She said that Biggie's response was, "Oh, word?" Big said, "You gonna do it? If the money comes through, yeah, I'll do it." How do I know that conversation didn't take place? I know based on the fact that, number one, 2 days after the 18th of October 1995, the song You Wonder Why They Call You Bitch was already recorded, and that's confirmed by the Chuck Phillips recorded interview taken on October 19th, 1995, approximately at 2 p.m. So when she said she allegedly told Biggie, according to her memoir, she would do the song with Tupac if the money came through, that was a lie, because Faith did the song anyway, and she knew the money hadn't come through. You must understand, in her memoir she said she told Tupac, "It's not going to be cheap," I told him, "and I need my money up front." The constant notion from Faith Evans is that Tupac played her and used her. How can that be remotely true when Faith Evans set the terms and the price? Speaking of price, this is how much Faith Evans said that she was making per show at that time.
And I was doing shows like, you know, getting like, I want to say at the time I had maybe 2 singles out, but I had a gold. My album might have even been gold, but I know I had 2 gold singles for sure. And maybe my album almost gold. I'm getting paid like $7,500 just to do 2 songs, 3 songs on a night. You know, maybe 75, 10 G's. Like, that was okay for me.
But when Tupac wanted her to do just background vocals on You Wonder Why They Called You Bitch, she claimed that he agreed to pay her $25,000. And that was the reason why Faith claimed she went back to Tupac's hotel room the second time when she had supposedly told Tupac already, "I need my money up front." And you have to remember, in that 1996 interview, she was denying she even went into the studio with Tupac. But in her memoir, Faith wants to Jedi mind trick us into believing that she told Biggie everything. But when Biggie and Tupac were alive, she denied everything in that 1996 interview.
I did a reference vocal for another group I won't name.
Okay.
And it ended up that they were going to try to use the vocal on Tupac's album. So I guess it was for him or whatever. I really don't know. But then I come back home and the first thing I hear it has nothing to do with his record is that me and him were like involved or whatever. That's not true at all. I mean,
it was strictly business, no pleasure.
It wasn't even business. It would have been business, but it never got that far.
It was you and somewhere else, and then it was moved on to his project, supposedly.
Pretty much.
Okay.
It never was moved on, and my voice is not on his album.
And she didn't even have her wedding ring on that night she met Tupac. One of the most deceiving parts about her memoir is why would Faith tell Biggie on October 20th or 21st, according to her memoir, about a song that Tupac wanted to record with her when the song was already recorded on October 19th, 1995. According to Faith's memoir, we're still in the month of October 1995, and because I was there at the Hollywood Athletic Club on the night of the 18th, the day Faith is getting ready to speak of, according to her memoir, would be October 22nd. But remember, she doesn't give any dates. But I'm able to pick up on the timeline because I was there at the Hollywood Athletic Club on the 18th. And she said the next day, which would be October 22nd, 1995, according to her memoir, I got a page from Pac, and I called him back, and we had small talk for a minute. So what are you working on out here? He asked. I did a song on the Waiting to Exhale soundtrack, I told him. I'm going to the release party for that. And then Faith says that Tupac allegedly said, yeah, I'm going to that too, he said. So you still down to do a song with me? I've already proven the fact that the song was done on October 19th, 1995. And I need you to understand that the Waiting to Exhale soundtrack release party was on November 14th, 1995. Remember, according to her memoir, Faith didn't see Tupac again after the alleged sexual harassment on October 19th. So now Faith would have us believe, according to the timeline in her memoir, that Tupac is now paging her in reference to what she's working on October 22nd, when the actual date Tupac would have made that call, if Faith was telling the truth, would be November 13th, 1995, the day before the Waiting to Exhale soundtrack release party. This is very important because in Faith Evans' own words, she's making none of what she said in regards to the alleged Tupac sexual harassment / oral sex proposition true. Follow me. According to Faith Evans in her memoir, she says, the next night was the party for the release of the Waiting to Exhale soundtrack. According to the timeline presented in her memoir, Faith would have you think the party is on October 23rd, 1995, but in reality, the party actually took place on November 14th, 1995, which would actually be 27 days after the night I spoke to Tupac and saw Tupac and Faith talking outside the Hollywood Athletic Club, and 26 days after You Wonder Why They Call You Bitch had been recorded. It's the night of the party for the Waiting to Exhale soundtrack, and this is what Faith says allegedly happened according to her memoir. My cell phone rang. What up, Faith? Where you at? It was Tupac. I told him I was at the party for the soundtrack. Word, he said. I'm here too. Where are you? I need to remind you, this is the same Tupac Shakur that allegedly made these comments, according to Faith's memoir, on October 19th, 1995, at his hotel after recording You Wonder Why They Call You Bitch. The situation with the money is like this, he said. If I give it to you, then you my bitch. You heard me. You gotta be my bitch. So you not trying to suck my dick? You know you want to suck my dick, bitch. Don't lie. Well, all right then. Fucking bitch. You want to leave? Tell the driver to take you home. The limo is still out there. Get the fuck out. He never came down, was Faith Evans' direct quotes, according to her memoir, as to never seeing Tupac again after that night in his hotel room. Remember, Faith Evans still has us in the month of October, according to her memoir, but in reality, it's November 14th, 1995. According to her memoir, while at the Waiting to Exhale party, Faith Evans made an observation about Tupac, which would make the alleged sexual harassment on October 19th in Tupac's hotel room a complete and utter fabrication. Tupac seemed cool to me. There was nothing about him personally that made me uncomfortable. This is the same Tupac who allegedly said all of those sexually harassing and degrading things to Faith Evans 26 days earlier. It's now November 14th, 1995, but in her book, she wants you to believe it's October 24th, 1995. Another thing that struck me as odd was at the party, according to Faith's memoir, she said, I introduced him to my friend Nikki, and we chatted until it was time to hit the red carpet. Mind you, this is while sitting in Faith's limousine, supposedly waiting to go into the Waiting to Exhale party. But the truth of the matter is, Nikki from Brownstone didn't need an introduction, as she was at the Hollywood Athletic Club that night. You don't have to believe me. Here's the picture. Tupac already met Nikki. And one of the most deceitful quotes from Faith Evans' memoir is, as she was walking the red carpet with Tupac, she said, "I wanted to walk up to each person and tell them, I'm not actually with Tupac. He just jumped in my car a few minutes ago, and I met him for the first time yesterday." The craziest part about that, as you know as well as I do, because I was there that night, and based on the picture, is that Faith met Tupac on the 18th of October. But according to her embellished story about Tupac, she wished she could have lied and told the paparazzi and onlookers that she had only met Tupac yesterday, which would have been November 13th, 1995, as the day of the party was on the 14th of November. If you were to believe Faith Evans, you would think that Tupac was actually stalking her. But the truth of the matter is, I'm going to let West Coast hip-hop legend Mac Mall tell you about when Tupac ran into Faith Evans at the Century Club.
Quincy Jones' daughters came over, and we go to the club. So yeah, we go to the club, nigga. We come up, we go upstairs, and Faith is sitting in the corner by herself, right, or with her partner. And Pac do one of these to me. We walking like, come on, man, let's go up here. Oh, hold up, blood. Nah, come on, let's go. Just like you would do if you want to shake a bitch that you fuck. Nah, nigga, I don't even want to be by her right here. Come on, let's go over here. You feel me? And trust me, I know something about shaking a motherfucker. You feel me? Or not wanting to be by a motherfucker. I'm like, oh. Pac was like, oh, nah, man, we can't be over here. And that bitch is looking at him with them with them crazy bitch eyes. You feel me? So I know that nigga fuck.
And according to Mac Mall, not only did Faith Evans see Tupac again after October 19th, 1995 at the Waiting to Exhale soundtrack release party, but she also saw him again at the Century Club in and around December 3rd, 1995, because that's when the single California Love was released. Furthermore, Whitney Houston had invited Tupac to the Waiting to Exhale soundtrack release party. It's common knowledge, as it was admitted by Whitney Houston's then-husband Bobby Brown, that Whitney Houston and Tupac had a sexual relationship.
One of her affairs that I am willing to mention is the one she had with Tupac. This occurred in the first few years of our marriage, during a time when I thought we were in a good place. I will admit it here, that the news of the affair really fucked me up. I could not believe that Whitney was willing to jeopardize what we had, which I knew was hot and heavy and unique, for some fling. We fought long and hard about the cheating, lobbing hurtful accusations back and forth. We were together in September 1996 when we found out that Tupac had been killed. Whitney bawled her eyes out, crying for days over his death. Her tears were painful for me because I knew what that meant. My wife was mourning the passing of a lover.
In one of the most salacious quotes from her memoir, Faith Evans says, "I saw Whitney Houston from across the room, and she gave me a look that said, 'Oh, word, you're with him?' And my heart sank." I won't go into what Whitney Houston allegedly looking at Faith Evans meant or communicated, but I will say this. If Whitney Houston was having a sexual relationship with Tupac Shakur, as Bobby Brown communicated in all his honesty in that interview, I don't think Faith Evans' expression or eye-reading attempt would accurately communicate what Whitney Houston was thinking. What I need you to understand is now Faith Evans is now, according to her memoir, accepting calls, returning pages, smoking marijuana, introducing her friends, sharing her table and limousine, allegedly going to the Peninsula Hotel for the first time with Tupac Shakur, the same Tupac Shakur that allegedly sexually harassed her and owes her $25,000. In reality, the sexual encounter Tupac rapped about and hit him up has already occurred. But according to Faith Evans' memoir, she would have you believe that after the Waiting to Exhale soundtrack release party would be the first time she would find out Tupac was staying at the Peninsula Hotel. After the party was over, according to her memoir, this is the conversation that Faith alleges took place between her and Tupac. "Where y'all going now?" he asked, with a bright smile on his face. "We're leaving," I said quickly. "We're going to a party." "Where?" he asked. "The Peninsula," I said. "That's where I'm staying," he said. "I'll catch a ride over there with y'all." Remember this conversation that I told you about in the beginning that happened when Faith went back to Tupac's hotel the same night after she met him at the Hollywood Athletic Club? The craziest part about that, according to her memoir, Faith claimed that the conversation took place after the Waiting to Exhale soundtrack release party. Faith also tried to convince us, according to her memoir, that the date was October 23rd and not November 14th, 1995. According to Faith Evans in her memoir, a few days later, after the Waiting to Exhale soundtrack release party, she says this about her supposedly going to the studio to record the song with Tupac, which had already been recorded on October 19th, 1995. Faith says, according to her memoir, right on time, a few days later, a car came to Terry Dollar's house to pick me up, but instead of a delivery service and the driver, it was Tupac himself, driving a black convertible Mercedes-Benz with the top down. I need you to understand, Tupac Shakur didn't come to pick Faith Evans up a few days later after that party because the song had already been recorded and completed, as I've already factually proved that to you with the Chuck Phillips recorded interview that took place approximately at 2 p.m. on October 19th, 1995. Please let me continue to separate fact from fiction and the truth from Faith Evans' brazen fabrications. On October 18th at approximately 9:30 to 9:45 p.m. is when I seen Tupac pull up in his two-tone SL500 convertible Benz. And about 1 minute behind him, Faith Evans pulled up in a cherry red M3 BMW convertible with some girlfriends in the car. Tupac jumped out and walked up to Faith Evans' car as it pulled up behind his. That's when I spoke to Tupac and he told me hold on for a minute. I didn't understand the conversation that they were having at the time, but the top was down on a red BMW. I waited for a minute and then I decided to go into the Hollywood Athletic Club where I saw Tretch from Naughty by Nature. We spoke and I said, "What's up?" And I told him that Tupac was outside talking to Faith. And he said to me, "Yeah, I'm waiting on him." We started to chit-chat, and as I looked to my right, I looked over and I was like, "Yo, is that Arnell Simpson?" And Tretch replied, "Yeah, she with me." And I turned around and looked at him and said, "My man." If you weren't there at the Hollywood Athletic Club that night, like I was, you wouldn't have known that Biggie, when he wrote his hit song Hypnotize, and he said, "Dare I squeeze 3 at your cherry M3, bang every MC easily, busily," you wouldn't have known that he was throwing a subliminal shot at Faith. That night at the Hollywood Athletic Club, the word had got back to Biggie that Faith Evans was hanging out with Tupac that night. Remember when Faith, according to her memoir, said she called Biggie and talked to him 1 or 2 days after the night she met Tupac? But according to Faith's Drink Champs interview, Biggie was also trying to call her, but she was ignoring his calls.
I told Big I met Pop. Like, I would avoid Big's calls sometimes to that producer's house that I was working with, just on my little bullshit, you know. We did dumb shit.
So did she call Biggie and run it by him like she said in her memoir? Or did she finally take his call after ignoring it, like she said on Drink Champs? You must remember, Hit 'Em Up wasn't released yet. Those pictures from the Hollywood Athletic Club weren't released yet. And there were no other articles other than the Vibe interview while Tupac was in prison. So for Faith to say that she didn't know about Tupac's feelings as it related to Biggie and the Quad Studio shooting after the April 1995 Vibe interview would be disingenuous. She knew. But she still made the conscious decision to not only associate with Tupac, but also to record a song with him. According to her memoir, soon after the recording session with Tupac that she supposedly told Biggie about, Faith went back to New York, as her memoir reads. Soon after I got back to New York, I got a call from a girl named Jennifer who worked at Bad Boy. Yo, have you heard? Big is pissed off. Why would Biggie be pissed off? After all, Faith says she told him about Tupac wanting to do a song with her, or did she tell him? You must remember, during that 1996 interview, when Biggie was still alive, Faith was saying this.
What's the situation with you and Big? What's the situation with you and Tupac? The LA situation. What's going on?
Whoa. All right, you got to start at one point. Okay.
I'm going through all of it.
Okay. Situation with me and Tupac, there really never was a situation. I mean, we met. He was really nice.
It wouldn't be until after Biggie's and Tupac's death that she would claim this.
It was right after me coming back from LA, experiencing that session with him, and him kind of breaking on me, saying I gotta suck his dick to get my check. It was.
One of the other craziest parts about this fabricated story is that you have to remember the altercation with Biggie and Faith was soon after the recording session for You Wonder Why They Call You Bitch, according to Faith's memoir. Like I said before, that studio session factually took place on October 19th, 1995, which was the night Faith claimed she endured the alleged degrading sexual harassment from Tupac in his room at the Peninsula Hotel. So that would mean after the altercation with Biggie in New York, according to her memoir, Faith came back to LA to attend the Waiting to Exhale soundtrack release party. It is a fact that in her memoir, Faith Evans wanted it to appear as if the Hollywood Athletic Club, the studio session, and the Waiting to Exhale soundtrack release party all happened just days apart from each other in October 1995. And the reason Faith Evans wanted it to appear that way is because it would have made her fabricated story, or better yet lie, about Tupac sexually harassing her more believable. And it would also conceal, or better yet hide, the fact that 26 days had passed since the studio session on October 19th until she would return to Los Angeles and would run into Tupac again at the soundtrack release party. In fact, the pictures from the soundtrack release party would totally annihilate Faith Evans' fabricated story about her never seeing Tupac again after that night at the Peninsula Hotel. And the most pivotal part in her whole memoir is the fact that Faith Evans made an observation of Tupac, according to her memoir, while at the soundtrack release party, when she said, Tupac seemed cool to me. There was nothing about him personally that made me uncomfortable. That comment by Faith Evans totally exonerates Tupac and annihilates Faith Evans' fabricated story about Tupac degrading and sexually harassing her. It was a lie. Period. You must understand, for Faith Evans' salacious Tupac sexual harassment story to have worked, she needed us to believe her very long list of lies mixed with the short truth. And that truth is, Faith met Tupac Wednesday, October 18th, 1995 at the Hollywood Athletic Club, and she went back to his hotel with him that same night. That's where the conversation regarding the specifics of Faith Evans' guest appearance and where Tupac would confirm with Faith that he was sending her a car to go to the studio, among other things. The next day on October 19th, 1995, Tupac and Faith were in the studio recording You Wonder Why They Call You Bitch.
The money on the women in your knees, in the locker room, all you was left. Take it back.
I'm saying I went into the verse.
That's all right.
All right.
Remember, we can bring you in and out whenever we want.
You want to say that? Yeah. You want to chorus? Here we go.
This shit mad fast.
Hey, but you're doing it. You're doing it though, girl. Exactly, you are.
And after the studio session, Faith and Tupac went back to his hotel again, as confirmed by Drew Down, who opened the door when they reached the hotel.
Yes, this is true. This is true. The Pac down, knockdown fight. Yes. And whoever said, yeah, hello, I was there.
One of the people Tupac called after having sex with Faith was a former lover and die-hard loyal friend who kicked in those prison doors to go visit Tupac every time she got a chance while he was in jail. DELRAY Smith is her name, and this is what she said Tupac told her immediately after.
A couple weeks before I went to visit him in L.A., one afternoon I'm in Queens at my girlfriend's house and my pager goes off, so I call back, it's him on the phone, and he's like, yo, I did it. I'm like, did what? I'm like, what you did? This nigga's like, I fucked Faith. He was like, she just left my hotel room. I was like, oh, shit. Like, I can't believe, I couldn't believe you did it, but damn, that fast. Okay. He's like, yeah. He's like, I had her in the studio. She did a track for me. He was like, that shit was easy. I was like, all right, And, I was in shock. I mean, we spoke about it, but, I just was like, damn, that nigga, he did that shit. So when I went out to L.A. and he took me to the studio, one of the tracks that he played for me, I think it was pretty much the first track he played for me was, the unreleased Wonder Why They Call You Bitch with her vocals on there. And he was showing me, and I was like, oh, shit. Okay. And he was telling me how, he took her down, but he was like, it was hard for him to get focused, to get his dick hard, because he didn't really want to smash in the first place, but he was like, she was Big's wife, so she had to get it, collateral damage.
Isn't it ironic that Tupac was charged in New York with the rape of someone he didn't have sex with on the night in question? And in fact, that was proven in court. Tupac was actually found guilty of sexual abuse for forcibly touching the buttocks of a girl who admitted to giving Tupac oral sex the first night she met him on the nightclub dance floor. And that same girl filed a civil lawsuit, and Tupac settled. Tupac was sentenced to 4.5 years in jail, and his co-defendants' charges were dismissed. The assistant DA, Melissa Morges, had admitted that she specifically went after Tupac because of his reputation and accused crimes elsewhere. She was referring to Tupac shooting 2 off-duty police officers in Atlanta and getting off with it because they were exposed as corrupt and drunk at the time of the incident. And isn't it ironic that Tupac, who admitted to having sex with Faith Evans, who would then write a book and profit by saying that she didn't have sex with Tupac, and that same Faith Evans, in turn, would lie and say Tupac sexually harassed her by saying that Tupac said,
saying I gotta suck his dick to get my check. Like, it was...
Wait, who?
Rest in peace, Tupac Shakur and Biggie Smalls. The truth has finally been revealed.
Straight gang.